It is a remarkable day today, and in my first speech way back in 1996 I spoke about the importance of Western Sydney Airport here at Badgerys Creek. Some 27 years later we see it taking shape here. On previous visits here, this was a whole lot of earth had to be moved as one of the first tasks at this airport, perhaps the largest ever earth moving of any infrastructure project that has occurred anywhere in Australia. But this is a transformational infrastructure project for Western Sydney. This is not just about a runway, although it's important that we're able to see the runway here today. This is about jobs and economic activity and changing the focus of Sydney. So that instead of always looking inward towards the east and towards the city, it looks outwards to Western Sydney, where most of the population of this great global city live. This project, I know, has such a long history, but I will recall having a look way back at the master plans in 1994 and 1995. The master plans are basically stayed the same, just about, and some 30 years later we are getting there. Today we say we are halfway there, halfway to the milestone of achieving actual planes operating here, carrying passengers, carrying freight as well. Western Sydney hit the halfway mark at the end of May and is on track to commence in late 2026 with freight as well as moving people. Hitting the halfway mark on construction is more than just something to mark on a calendar. It allows us to point to the benefits that this project is already bringing to Western Sydney. Over $400 million has already been awarded to businesses in Western Sydney for the work that has happened on this very site. Some 4,300 direct jobs have already been created by the construction of the airport, with over 11,000 direct and indirect jobs expected to be created throughout the construction period up to the airport opening in 2026. To give you some idea of the scale here, the business park that will be placed in this airport site, let alone on the surrounds of the metropolis, will be bigger than Parramatta's CBD. Bigger than Parramatta's CBD. What that means is economic activity and jobs where it is needed most. More than 250 Western Sydney businesses have been engaged by contractors across construction, catering, security and the other sectors here at the airport. So what we can see is a vision becoming a reality before our very eyes. Western Sydney International Airport will change the dynamic of Sydney. It'll change as well with the public transport infrastructure which will be here, with the businesses that will be here, particularly to the north of the airport, but will really transform this great global city. And I'm very proud that today we are celebrating the milestone. But today there's another important announcement as well, and I'm very pleased to be here with Alan Joyce and the Qantas team, with the Western Sydney International Airport team, to announce that Qantas and Jetstar are the first airlines to sign up to operating domestic flights out of this airport from 2026. This agreement that's about to be signed by Qantas is expected to support more than 25,000 flights, carrying more than 4 million passengers through Western Sydney International Airport each year. It will support 700 jobs, including, of course, pilots, catering staff, flight attendants, baggage handlers, all the staff who will operate here, making an enormous difference. And I well remember, as a former infrastructure and Transport Minister sitting down with Alan all those years ago, talking about the importance of the operations at this airport. This airport will have a number of advantages as well. Its taxiing times will be far less than that of existing airports anywhere in Australia. Its baggage handling will be more efficient than any airport in Australia. This will be top of the range from day one, which will make an enormous difference. It'll make a difference for people in Western Sydney in particular, and I'm very pleased that Qantas is making this announcement today, but I'm also pleased that we can see the reality of what is happening here, and that this airport also has such broad community support who understand the difference that it will make to local jobs and economic activity here in Western Sydney, as well as being, of course, a major boost for productivity. Seems to be the word of the moment. Well, this is a productivity enhancing project for Sydney and for the nation.
Well, can I first of all acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past and present. Can I thank everybody for being here, particularly the Prime Minister for his vision and support of this airport, but the Minister and the local member and Simon Hickey and Paul O'Sullivan, who have done amazing leadership here to get this so close to completion. I also like to acknowledge my colleagues, Vanessa Hudson, who's the CFO and the CEO designate. And Vanessa will be helping me with some of the questions because her and our team have helped negotiate this deal. And we have Steph Tully, the CEO of Jetstar. And to have these senior managements here from Qantas shows how important this is. And I think it's absolutely amazing, absolutely breathtaking that in just over 3 years, we're going to have Qantas and Jetstar aircraft rushing down this runway. So don't be here when that happens, please. They are going to be here operating from day one. We've made the commitment that Qantas and Jetstar both will operate in this airport when it's open for business from that first day. But the commitment is bigger than that. It says within a year of operations, we will grow our services here to 15 aircraft. This will make this airport the 6th largest airport on the Qantas network. As they say in the music charts, it's right in there at 6. It's a big entry for an airport that's just been created. And I have absolutely no doubt it will be the biggest airport on the Qantas network one day. And that is amazing to think that we're standing on that. Now this will complement what we're doing in Kingsford Smith. This is growth to the Sydney Basin. This is extra seats to the Sydney Basin, which will give our customers more choice and more frequency and more destination. And what we know from our research is that in the catchment area for Western Sydney, there's already 2 million trips taken each year from people that live in that catchment area. We think that can grow to a lot more as people have the facilities of direct services from the region, and as we stimulate demand with putting lower airfares into this airport. Now we're going to be doing it with the new aircraft that we're taking delivery of. Qantas has 1 new aircraft arriving every 3 weeks between now and when this airport opens up in over 3 years' time. 1 aircraft every 3 weeks. And we know that with those aircraft, we'll be able to operate a whole range of routes because these new aircraft are capable of flying to anywhere in Australia, to any destinations in Australia direct from here. We also are very keen to obviously grow the employment here. So as the Prime Minister says, this commitment alone will create at least 700 new jobs. We know they're going to be well sought after in this region. Qantas has just hired over 7,000 people in the last year, and we had 161,000 applicants for those 7,000 jobs. We think the jobs here will be even more sought after. So if you're in this area, you're thinking of a job in aviation, pay attention to Qantas ads coming up closer to that date, because there's going to be great opportunities for you to work here. And there is a multiplier effect. For every job we create, there's 2 or more jobs that are actually created in other industries, which is great for employment in Western Sydney. Finally, can I say a big thank you to, again, Simon and Paul for this amazing facility. Paul, I feel like we're back in Ireland. I feel this is an Irish airport. We've got the fog and we've got the cold weather. We're probably the only two that can cope with this. But it's absolutely great, this facility that they're building. As the Prime Minister said, it's going to be a very efficient facility. And that makes a big difference for us. It'll have shorter block times, shorter taxi times. It allows us to turn around aircraft faster. And that means we can keep the airfares lower. And from a customer experience, the new baggage design system and the customer experience through the airport, I think our customers are going to love it. Today, we're only talking about the domestic commitment, and that's a 15 aircraft dedicated here. We're still talking to the airport about international, and we're still talking to the airport about freight. And we have a very big desire to operate both from this airport. We just have to get more commercial terms that are sensible. And once we get there, we're going to be very happy to make that commitment. So can I really thank the government for the vision of building this airport. As the Prime Minister said, we've been talking to him and previous transport minister and future transport ministers about this facility. It's great to see it come true. This is a big achievement. It's going to be one of the biggest airports in the world, and we're very happy to be the launch customer for it, and hopefully this will be the biggest airport that Qantas will operate one day. So congratulations to the government for the strategic vision of this, and to the management team for building such an airport on time, on budget, and doing it as efficiently as this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for those remarks, and thank you, Prime Minister and Minister King, for your earlier remarks. I'd also like to thank Auntie Gail for her acknowledgement to country. So, as the newest airport in Australia, we think it's our responsibility to actually represent that 60,000 years of continuous cultural history that is in this place. And we hope to take that responsibility on as we build the airport out. Today is an historic day for Australian aviation and for Western Sydney. The announcement by Qantas and Jetstar today is a real proof point around the world about the benefits that will come from this airport and what it will deliver for people in Western Sydney. The benefits of this airport, where WSI will be a modern airport, a technologically enabled airport, an efficient airport and a sustainable airport. And so that makes an enormous difference to Qantas and Jetstar, who will be operating here. From a passenger perspective, that means it'll be an enjoyable and more seamless experience. And from an airline perspective, that means it will be efficient and reliable. Technology at this airport, such as a new modern Cat 3B landing system, which means in a fog like today, you can land and take off and maintain operations through the foggy morning that we've had today. Which will be the second airport in Australia to have that system. Qantas and Jetstar passengers are going to love flying through Western Sydney Airport, and we can't wait to welcome them. But WSI is also designed for growth, and over the decades ahead will actually become the same scale and size as JFK and Dubai today. And so we're really thrilled that Qantas and Jetstar will be on that growth trajectory with us from day one. And while WSI will be serving all of Australia, all of Sydney, sorry, it's actually important to consider that the major benefit of WSI will be Western Sydney. We've already invested, as the Prime Minister announced, over $400 million in local businesses. And through construction, we continue to deliver on that promise to local community, where 50% of our workforce of thousands of workers today live and reside in Western Sydney. And 30% of our workers are learning workers, whether that be through apprenticeships, traineeships, or other vocational training. And so that purpose of delivering socio-economic uplift and benefit, we know is so important to the Commonwealth, but it's actually the purpose that drives everybody that works at Western Sydney Airport. Today we're announcing as well that we're 50% of the way through construction. After completing the bulk earthworks, which was, we think, the largest earth-moving project in Australia's history, 26 million tonnes of earth, 6 million tonnes of sandstone, 26 million cubic metres of earth moved around the site, 6 million tonnes of sandstone brought onto this site. We're 30% of the way through the terminal build, 30% of the way through the runway build, and 30% of the way through the land side. So we're on track to open in 2026. And with Qantas and Jetstar here from day one, we can't wait to welcome Australians and people from across the globe to Sydney through the cultural heartland of Sydney, Western Sydney. Now, Alan, with that, we might sign some agreements.
We're happy to take questions. Difficult ones to Mr. Joyce.
Prime Minister, just on the economy, the budget predicted interest rates have peaked at 3.85%. Economists now say they could see that get up to 4.85%.
Sorry, it's really hard to hear.
It is, isn't
People
it?
are going to have to come forward a little bit. Sorry.
The budget predicted interest rates have peaked at 3.85%. Economists now say that could get to 4.85% or above. Is this the correct strategy by the RBA?
Well, economists will have, if you have 10 economists, they'll have 10 views. The RBA have made a decision that they make independent, of course, of government. They're responsible for monetary policy. What my government has done is make sure, as Treasury and indeed the RBA Governor have acknowledged, has put that downward pressure on inflation. Our energy price relief plan alone took 0.75% off inflation, according to both the RBA Governor and according to Treasury estimates. So we'll continue to do our job of taking pressure off inflation, but also to do our job, which is provide a cost of living relief and a range of measures in the budget, including cheaper childcare, the energy price relief plan, fee-free TAFE, were all aimed at doing just that.
Prime Minister, did Senator Katie...
Hang on, one at a time. Look, I'm optimistic about Australia's future. I'm optimistic that we can seize the opportunities through areas like this that we are doing. What you see before us here is an example of Australian ingenuity. This will be a world-class airport, providing jobs, boosting productivity, making sure that we lift living standards by providing good, secure employment at this airport. This airport being a catalyst for further investment in business in the region, including the science park to our north and all the other activity that we will see here. A business park that will be bigger than Parramatta CBD just here at the airport. That's before you look at the flow-on effect for businesses in the region that will be located in places like the science park. I'm very optimistic about Australia's future. I remain that. I think that we can be positive going forward, and that's my approach, and that's the approach that my government is taking. We want to shape the future, not allow the future to shape us.
But between now and this airport opening, there is a real possibility of recession if we continue to slow.
I am very positive about Australia's future. I think that we need to continue to invest in our education and training, to invest in our infrastructure, to invest in our people. And we have a range of advantages. We're not immune to global impacts, and the global inflation impact is there for all to see in all of the G7 countries who I met with just a few weeks ago in Japan. This is a global phenomenon, but Australia has a path through our budget in turning around what was anticipated to be, bear this in mind, just previously a year ago, in 2022, the Coalition's budget predicted a $78 billion deficit, and our forecast in the budget that we produced just a month ago was a $4.2 billion surplus, and that's because we made sure that the revenue gains which had been made, we returned to the budget bottom line. That is what was the responsible thing to do, and that will put us in good stead. We know people are doing it tough at the moment, and the decision by the Reserve Bank this week will place further pressure on families. But we need to continue as a government to do what we can to take that pressure off working families.
Prime Minister, did Senator Katie...
One at a time.
Sorry,
hang on.
I'll be really quick. No, I'm so sorry. On interest rates, the RBA often says as they go up that Australians would be worse off in a recession. But how do you think that's really resonating with families right now?
I think Australians are doing it tough. We know that that's the case. The Reserve Bank are independent of the government. But the government, what we can do is to do our bit to put downward pressure on inflation. We produced a budget last month that did just that.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Did Senator Katie Gallagher mislead Parliament in June 2021 when she was asked whether she knew of the allegations regarding Brittany Higgins before they became public, and replied, "No one had any knowledge, how dare you?" And do you still have confidence in Senator Gallagher?
I have absolute confidence in Senator Gallagher.
And would you support...
Hang on, you get one, and then... Hang on, you get one, and then we go round. Yep.
Did Brittany Higgins and her partner use Labor MPs to get publicity? Are you Tanya Cook second now Katie Gallagher being dragged into this story?
Well, I don't take advice from anyone. I had not met Brittany Higgins until I met her publicly on the same day that she met Scott Morrison.
Do you think that the anti-corruption commission should look into the payment?
Well, one of the things about the Anti-Corruption Commission that people mightn't have noticed in the Coalition is that it's independent of parliamentarians, and it in fact could be regarded as an entirely inappropriate action by the Prime Minister or any other politician for that matter to try to direct the Anti-Corruption Commission into what to do. We set it up as an independent body The former government, of course, promised one in 2018 and didn't deliver one. We have delivered one.
Do you think this saga could end up in the national land corruption?
I just answered the question,
How many
which
times-
is that you're asking me to do something that's entirely inappropriate because the Anti-Corruption Commission is independent of politics. That's the idea. If it's in with politics, then that itself is a problem. There's a standard position of ANEF of when insulation and those measures, indeed acquisition, come in. That's a standard formula. That's the same for every airport in Australia. Thanks.